Imagine this, you've just signed your very first rent-to-rent deal. You're very excited, you've invested thousands of pounds in furniture, design, setup. Within 6 months, the property has to shut down and you've lost £8,000. Now guys, I've seen it again and again, and the mission here is to make sure it doesn't happen to you. So guys, if you're new to this channel, my name is Piers BK. Welcome to another Grow Your BnB video. Now, most people think getting their first property will solve their issue of starting a property investing business. Now look, yes, that will probably also get you on that top 10% who actually goes and find properties to work on. But sometimes 90% of who didn't get the property are actually better off because they won't be losing their money. So here's the truth for most beginners jumping in short-term rentals because someone on Instagram has probably told you that's an easy passive income, but they don't tell you this. 1, 2, 3 wrong deals killed your business. More importantly, the landlord needs to start paying guaranteed net rent. Your margin is gone. And if you've not checked your mortgages, your compliance, your property, overnight, you can have your property shut down. Now in this video, we're going to further go into a little bit more detail. We're going to touch base on the things that we've got to look at and make sure that you understand how to protect yourself and your investments. Now look, in today's video, we're going to talk about 3 truths most beginners jump into short-term rentals because someone in Instagram has told them that it's an easy passive income. So number 1, look, the wrong deal actually kills before you even start the business. Now, there's 2 things I really want to touch base on. Firstly, if you have a guaranteed rent that you're going to offer to a landlord, the likely chances are you've already got a massive margin that you've lost because you're giving a guaranteed rent to a landlord. Obviously, that is still a rent. And secondly, if you haven't checked your mortgages or planning compliance of the property, you can get into problems and you might be able to even have your property shut overnight. So again, completely 2 different legal stuff, as well as being able to understand your profit margin in the first time you're investing is so important. Look, setup cost doesn't come back if your property fell in the first 6 months. Now, what does this mean is if you launch a bad deal, and I've seen that happen so many times in the industry because somebody's rushed to go and get that first unit, eventually what will happen is in 6 months time, if you've got, and if you're lucky, you might have a break clause. You might also even to a point that you run out of cash flow, which means you've got to, the only option here is that you have to shut the unit. If you shut that unit, not only you've lost the deal, but you've also pretty much lost, again, unless you be able to resell it, depending on what you bought, and obviously you're also losing a big margin of your, of the furnitures, the setup, the photos that you've done, the smart locks, the linen, everything that you bought is a investment that you did. And if you don't actually completely sell it in the price that you want, and even if you get 50% back, it's still great, but it's going to take a long time to do that. And more importantly, no one will refund you for the bad decision that you made in your property deal. Now, number 3, most people don't stress their margin and their numbers. Now, the reason why I say that is for 2 things. When you're doing your market due diligence, if you are looking at a property to do a break even, which is effectively you've got your fixed cost and your variable cost. Now, look, if you're new to this channel, you don't understand your fixed cost and your variable cost in this business, I've actually done a separate video about it. Please do go and check it because the reality is most operators don't even understand their own fixed cost of the property, fixed cost of their business, and also the variable cost. And especially if you're a new starter and you don't understand that and you hope to make that break even at 50%, the likely chances are your business cost and your variable cost could probably even take it to 60 to 65% on break even. So if that doesn't match what you're going to do in revenue and the market due diligence you've done, you've already lost nearly 15% of your margin, which you at some point thought was a profit for you, right? And the second thing you've got to look at is too many people assume that they're probably going to get 80 to 90% occupancy rate as soon as they launch their property. Now guys, yes, sometimes it happens. We've seen, like, I remember in 2018, 2019, when Airbnb booking.com was the platform to launch properties on straight away, you would then get, and again, by the way, it depends on how you get your return, right? You get a potential booking from today all the way till like next month, and you've made a great profit. You got a good booking because your calendar was empty, you've launched it, you were ranked in page number 1 and all that good stuff. However, also what people forget is if you open your calendar for 2-3 nights and all of a sudden you got your first 2-3 nights booking in a week's time, 2 weeks time, great that you've done it. But then again, you've got to start thinking about filling the gaps in for the calendars that you've got now, because that's what's going to get you the margin, right? So again, the same thing applies here. 80 to 90% occupancy rate. The likely chances are probably nowadays in the UK anyway, less than 50% of new launches do that in a good month. So remember, if you're launching properties now, like coming into October, November, December, Jan, the market's going to go down. There's more and more properties fighting for those same or similar guests to yours. So if you don't understand that, again, going back to the P&L and cash flow, I've done again a separate video on this, but if you don't actually understand that people, if you're launching that unit, you've got to be ready to even do 60% occupancy rate. And actually on that 60%, what I said earlier, if you don't do your stress test right, you're going to end up literally losing money in your first month. So if you're not willing to do that, then you're now going to get a bad start for your investment, and that kind of adds up to second month panic mode. You've made some money, but you've lost money in the first month, and then winter comes in, like November, December in the UK market, it's going to be completely different. So you've got to make sure that you're ready, you're thinking ahead, just for this reason, to save you that investment, that initial investment of 8,000-9,000, whatever that your mentors are telling you to go and do it. You've got to save it, because it's not just about that. If your property doesn't work, you're losing all of that money. Now, I've worked with over 6,000 properties globally over the last 8-9 years. And for me, there's certain things I've seen with people who I know will succeed or people who are going to crash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys 3 major tips on asking yourself these questions before you go and invest. If you're a new potential operator on the Airbnb and short-term rental world, make sure you think about this. Make sure you know the answers to this before you go and invest. So number 1, have you checked, or has the landlord checked their mortgages and this, basically on lease? Some leases don't allow short-term rental, and I've seen this again. It happens, by the way, every month in the UK, where somebody goes and get a unit from a deal sourcer, a property deal sourcer. They haven't checked the mortgage. You've gone in, you've set up, you've done all the right things. A neighbors complain, and all of a sudden you realize now the fact that yes, you might be looked after, but the fact that you spend money on investment, the fact that you've obviously setting up units not easy, the time that you invest and stuff, you do not want to start your business wrong. And if you do that, the challenges starts. Yes, you are hopefully going to get your money back and all that stuff, but you're eventually just losing a lot of time. So something that to be aware of. 100%, I would not go by just landlords or agents or property sources telling you that this is the case. I would 100% recommend you see in proof that you are allowed to do short-term rental. Look, again, sometimes you want to go ahead and go, okay, well, it doesn't matter really. A lot of people are doing it, but that's exactly why you're gonna have challenges, because at that point, knowing the fact that you need to check all of this, you haven't done it, and the fact that somebody's complained about it, you're going to lose that deal straight away. So again, a bad start, right? The second thing is, what's your true break-even number? And exactly what I said about not your dream number, right? So sit down and look at every single expenses that you're going to have per month. And that again, what I said earlier about your fixed expenses of that property. And as you grow and scale, you go to 5, 10, it's going to be completely different. And then you've got your business expenses that you're going to have for that property. For example, accounting costs, nobody talks about it. I'm like, well, if you're going to say you're going to make £1,000 of net profit per month, you're telling me that you're going to make £12,000 on profit on that unit. The likely chances are, guys, it's not going to happen if you've got a bad deal. So even if you, let's say for argument's sake, did £7,000 net profit over 12 months, you've probably got about £1,000 bill off your accountant, which nobody talks about. So for me, again, remember, understand your true break-even number. At that point, your first unit is there to teach you lessons, still make you money if if you've got that right location, you've done the right due diligence, you've got the good bed settings, your furnitures, your photos are amazing. But eventually, that cost of accountant, even doesn't matter if you've got 1 or 10, it's still going to be the same. In reality, once you've got 10, it's going to make you more worthwhile because you've got better return on investment, obviously through your property. So something to look at. And the last point here is, am I prepared to walk away from a deal which it doesn't stack up, right? For me, again, that is much more better than being able to go and invest on a bad deal and lose a lot of money. Because look, again, walking away from a bad deal is better than losing £8,000 on your setup. Thank you so much for watching another Grow Your BnB video. I'm very excited to share this knowledge around, just saving yourself £8,000, £7,000, whatever you invest on the unit. I remember, guys, 2018, when I had my estate agency business, I remember we were going into IKEAs and setting up unit for £2,500, £3,000. Then they were like 2-bed apartments, because at that point there was no competition, there was no let's make sure the furniture looks amazing. It was literally, there's the apartment, let's put some furnitures, let's put a side table with some lamps on it, and that was it, and do some photos on your iPhone and launch it on Airbnb. That literally was what it was. Now fast forward 2025, there's a lot more market competition, and totally understand the market's evolved. Let me share you a Trustpilot screenshot of our results for our client. We've just hit 100 reviews on Trustpilot from people like yourself who's got 1 unit to some of the reviews there. I've got clients with over 100 units who obviously not only have their own unit, but now manage it for other people. The business model has changed a lot over years, and also what you want to achieve with this business model could be completely different to when you first start. I had clients who came to me initially 3 years ago saying, Piers, I want to launch 20 rent-to-rent and then move into purchase to short-term rental. Now the same clients are not doing any rent-to-rent and they are doing fully management for other people. So, and then they're currently sitting on 100 units. So the reason why is they've mastered the point of running the business, understanding there's problems that a lot of people don't understand how to get bookings. And as a result of that, they're now managing, they're looking after the guest communication. 10 o'clock in the night, it'll be all exciting when you first start. 12 months later, a couple of units later, you probably don't want to do it, especially if you're not making as much profit. So at that point, you're going to start looking at management company, or you're going to be a good management company and be able to do that for other people. And again, at that point, you're leveraging management with other people's unit and making a percentage share. So yeah, I'm excited because this year my goal was to hit 100. We've done that, 100 reviews on Trustpilot. We've achieved that. Now I want to go to 150, 200. And the whole point here was, if you look at the reviews, we're constantly working with clients to reshape their businesses, especially with somebody like, let's say, Lisa. I'm going to put her screenshot. When she came in, literally, they were about to close their business down. You can read from the whole Trustpilot review. 14 weeks ago, their business was about to shut down. 14 weeks later today, not only their occupancy rates gone up, not only they're making money, but all the business partner are now thinking so big on what they want to achieve next in the industry, including they've got a team member, they've got everything looked after, their marketing's on point, and that's exactly what short-term rental business is all about. It's not just launching properties. Look, if this video stops even one of you from jumping into a wrong or a bad deal, I think I've done my job here. But if you want to me possibly personally give you more advice on how to make sure you've got the right deal, just comment, check my deal, and just send us a message. Look, I've got a massive team now who sit down, work with clients, and the whole idea here is I want to make sure that people understand the right deal. We don't get anything out of checking your deal apart from telling you either I've worked in that industry or either I have worked in that location and be able to give you factual informations. And also, look, I post every single day on my Instagram about different scenarios, scaling, problems, bookings, everything that you want to see. So it might be worth joining into my Instagram. We've got our company one, which is GrowYourBnB. I've got my personal one, which is PiersBK. But guys, thank you so much for tuning into another GrowYourBnB video. Please make sure, if you're new to this channel, please make sure you hit that like, subscribe and share, and I'll be back with another video soon.